Well, this is Steve Moe, and I'm here on the Seedcast. Thanks for joining me, Ron.
Hi, thank you for inviting me today.
Well, the reason I invited you is that my great-grandfather interviewed your great-grandfather.
Right, yeah, I do. I have seen it actually.
You know about
100
that?
years ago, yeah.
In 2019.
2019, yeah.
And the thing that I love about that is that we were able to reach out and connect with each other 100 years later, in that you're the great-grandson of Ron and I'm the great-grandson of Stephen.
That's crazy.
And the reason we did that is I'm getting all of those former guests, hundreds of them, gathering to remember Seed's podcast,
Right.
which is just such a cool historical oddity.
It's cool, yeah.
That it was done 100 years ago, and my great-grandfather happened to do it. So what I'd love to talk with you about is some of the topics that they talked about 100 years ago, but thinking with our hats of being in 2119. And what it is that's changed since then. And, you know, one of the things that really struck me was that they were talking a lot about countries and where people were from.
Yeah.
And it made me kind of realize that it was before, of course it was before World War III, which was just one of the worst experiences that ever happened.
Yeah.
But after World War III, people really, like, for our generation, to think in terms of national identity, like we just don't think that way, do we?
No, not at all. We just kind of, one world sort of thing. We don't really see race anymore. I remember 100 years ago there was a lot of instances where there were racial crimes and stuff like that. So now everyone's everyone, and we're all sort of mixed.
It's quite different, isn't it? And you know, in the interview, your great grandfather talked about moving to New Zealand and not being able to speak the language.
Right.
Can you it's before the universal translators?
Right.
Do you realize that?
I can't really understand how he would have felt.
I know.
It's
bizarre.
Yeah, I guess it'll be really tough in a way for him to feel isolated and not be able to speak the language and just different culture, because we don't have that anymore.
I know. It's the technology has advanced so far.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like ancient times sort of thing. I kind of feel sorry for him in a way that he had to experience that, but at the same time, I think it would have been a cool experience, just getting through that hardship of the language barrier and experiencing different cultures, because we can't have that sort of experience anymore nowadays.
Well, I mean, with the networks of travel that we've got and the hypersonic tunnels between continents, like, you know, we could literally be in Korea in 35 minutes.
Yeah, because I think it was, 16, 18 hours just to travel from Korea to New Zealand?
I don't know. That was like 100 years ago. I think that it was more airplanes that they used back then.
Yes, yeah. So it's different technology. So just trying to imagine.
You're right. They probably did fly. I guess they would have flown like Auckland. I wonder if they could go all the way to Korea, or if they had to stop on the way.
I remember my dad telling me it used to be they had to stop. I think they had to stop in different countries before coming to New Zealand, or it was very rare for them to go from straight to Korea to New Zealand. Yeah. I'm not sure why. Maybe refueling. Don't know. And I think my dad told me that landed in Auckland and had to fly again to Christchurch.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah.
And that was the norm at the time.
Crazy.
No straight travels to destinations.
No straight travels at all.
Yeah.
The straight travels are really the way to get from one place to another.
Yeah.
And I think Muskink is just like the revolution of hypersonic travel by train.
I mean, can't really imagine, otherwise. I can't really imagine actually spending 18 hours on a transport and then getting to a destination and then flying again or traveling again. That's just a bit...
To have transport units like that is crazy. I mean, because yesterday you were in London, weren't you?
Yeah, I was, and then it just took...
And then you've just come here for this this interview
and
so that we could meet face to face. But how long did that take from London to New Zealand?
I think that was only about an hour, something like that.
Yeah.
I just watched a couple of videos and I was here, so didn't really pay too much attention to time. But we don't really think about that stuff anymore, do we? It's just travel time. It's just instant.
Well, I think back then they hadn't even... What year did they first land on Mars? I'm just trying to remember. Was
no
that
idea.
2000... I think it was 2030. It was something like that. Anyway,
something like that, right?
But at that time when they were talking, that no human had been to Mars yet.
Yeah,
can you believe that?
It's not habitable, and it was a dream to live in Mars. Well, people are living in Mars now. Yeah. So it's a bit crazy. I guess for people 100 years ago, it's hard to comprehend what sort of technology we would have 2119. Yeah, but it happened, and I think
as well in the interview, your great grandfather talked a lot about business, and like he wanted to be a succeed in business and stuff.
Yeah,
which is it's really interesting to me because of course today we have businesses and things, and that's important. But there's so much assistance that we've got from helpers.
Yeah, and AIs, and it's. I think times changed a lot. There's no labor workers around. It's all machine done, and the business that we have now is really, it's more about creative thinking now, other than people actually going out there doing things. I think it's a good in a way that we're living a good time where we can just do everything through our fingertips. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah,
and I think the businesses that do exist, like now, they have to say what their purpose is, and it has to be more than just making money.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think like 100 years ago, there was this mindset of we're making money and how much profit will there be.
Yeah,
and now we've kind of moved beyond that paradigm, and it is really about purpose.
Yes,
and companies need to have purpose beyond just making money.
Definitely. It's quite shocking to me that the purpose wasn't there 100 years ago, because it should have been like that from the start. It's quite hard to believe that what I heard is 100 years ago, company used to not recycle things properly because they only recycled plastics or materials that they can get money out of it. Wow. Hence why it's private owned and capitalism at best. Back then, people didn't know, people didn't care, but different times now, they have to do what's right.
You think, what were they thinking though? Like, did they not know that they all lived on the same planet?
I guess they didn't. I guess they're quite selfish back in the days, in a way that they just didn't care and money came first. But, I think it's good that we don't think that way anymore, and businesses actually have purpose and actually think about the future, instead of just their own thinking about their own pockets. Yeah.
And I guess it was the next generation, thinking after those guys. It was the next generation that really started going, we need to develop solutions here. We've got to fix the problems.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than create more.
Yeah, definitely. It's once again, it's super crazy to think that people had that thought process that money came first before the future. But it was the next generation that came through and then kind of put their hand up and said enough is enough. We all need to be educated in this field and actually look after our planet, otherwise we're all going to die. It's quite crazy that times were like that back in the days.
Yeah,
but now looking back, we know that norm should be that purpose comes first.
Yeah,
and sustainability comes first.
That's right.
Yeah.
So did you get a chance to meet your great grandfather Ron?
No.
You're named after him. But...
Yeah, I'm named after him, and I'm quite privileged that I'm named after him, because he was a great man. He fought for his vision and purpose. He was the one that kind of taught my granddad and my father about the value of purpose, and actually speaking up about, it's not about money, it's actually about sustainability and our future. So he did a lot of work in a sort of plastic and packaging area to become his company to become one of the most sustainable health supplement company in the world. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So it moved beyond that interview that we listened to. That was the early stages of it, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So what did it go on to become?
So So from my story that my father told me, that is it went to become they changed their packaging to be more sustainable, and they what they really focused on was actually educating the customers and the consumers about the sustainability side. Back in the days, they used to use glass a lot. No one really realized glass took a lot of carbon footprint to create and recycle. They didn't know that at the time. A lot of people didn't. So they went on to talk about it, broadcast that glass or some of these packagings are not the best solution. And Ron, great-granddad Ron, began to expand into more sustainable resources such as cannabis, hemp, and marijuana. You know, it was illegal back then to grow marijuana or have a business that's supported around it. So it's quite crazy. You know, hemp is used so readily available right now. You know, it's the norm now. Yeah. What I did hear is that hemp used to be the norm back in the days, even before maybe 150 years ago.
Okay.
It used to be very readily available. It was the go-to until some nylon was invented, and the government sort of pushed nylon to be the next best thing. And then,
which I guess is the fake product, right? Like
yes.
It kind of, for a while, the world seemed like, I don't know much about it, but it seems like it went off into sort of plastic was really good and we can use it in all different ways. And I think they used to, I saw a documentary about this. They were like going in something called a grocery store. Yeah. And like basically, well, it's where they used to keep all their food deposits.
Right.
And you'd go into it and you'd get your food deposits. It wasn't delivered
you have to
straight.
Go there.
Yeah, you'd go there. It didn't.
Yeah.
So now I know it's crazy. Because now, of course, we have units that monitor exactly what's in them.
Yeah.
And it sort of, it orders automatically. If you've got running out of bananas, it will order them for you. It will deliver them. It will go straight into your house. But back then, you used to go to the grocery store. You used to go around the physical store. And the crazy thing though is I saw this film footage, and basically everything in the store was wrapped in packaging, like plastic.
But why?
Like even little tiny bags, you know, like everything. It was crazy.
That's quite excessive, isn't it?
I think, yeah. Well, they just didn't know. They didn't know what they were doing to the world, I think. So,
right.
But it kind of, the point is it went off on a skew there away from the natural products of, you know, hundreds of years ago. And all of a sudden plastics and those inorganic ways became really popular. And thankfully, it's come back the other way. And of course now we just don't have that same issue of the great thing is, I mean, that discovery, who can forget 2025? Like that year was amazing, wasn't it? Because that was the year that they discovered the bacteria that could actually eat the plastic.
Yeah, that's
like I don't know what we would do if they hadn't made that discovery.
It was that discovered by a Japanese professor, wasn't it? That eats plastic, and we were able to actually get rid of plastic. I mean, I guess if we didn't have that bacteria in 2025, the world would be full of them. Because looking at from what you're hearing from you, everything was covered in plastic. Even it'll be what you said. It's plastic, even little things that come in plastic.
Yeah, everything. Like you'd go, like if you wanted to buy something sweet, you know, which I know we don't have it as readily available today. But if you did, back in the day, chocolate was readily available. You could buy it if you wanted, and anyway, it would come wrapped in little wrappers, and they were like colorful, and it represented different flavors and things. So
so it's different times. It's just, to me, it seems very unnecessary, and I feel like people were just not well informed at the time.
I agree with you. And the thing is, like, if you look at the human body, surely they must have known that what goes in comes out, right? Like it's basic, but at the time, it's like they just didn't care.
Yeah, definitely. I think.
But I think you have to give them credit. It's scientific advances, which means that we now understand the important. Like in that interview, they talked about omega-3 and things, and now we understand the vital role that it plays in our bodies. And of course, it's available, but they just didn't know.
They just didn't know. Yeah, I guess thankfully we're in a time that we're more educated. I guess it's quick to blame them for the actions, but I guess education does come in a big play. If they knew it, I'm sure they wouldn't have done the same. I hope so anyway. Some businesses back in the days, I did hear that they did know it, but they kind of focus more on their profits and getting deeper pockets. But times have changed, thank God.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess the thing is, we don't know what people will be saying about us in 100 years from now. But I do want to say thanks for coming on this Seedcast, and it's been going for 100 years now. So there's literally thousands of interviews, and you get to join them representing your great grandfather.
Yeah, no, thank you for your invitation, and I really thoroughly enjoyed talking about what it was like in 2019.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.